Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, and the central government has ruled out imposing a nationwide curfew and says that it is up to the autonomous communities to decide. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now let's get into the news, and as I said, the central government has said that they are not going to impose a countrywide curfew here in Spain, and they're going to let the autonomous communities decide what to do when it comes to controlling COVID-19 outbreaks. As we can see here, the Health Ministry rules out curfew and nightlife measures. It's up to each community to decide. The Minister of Health, Catalina Darias, has ruled out imposing or agreeing with the autonomous communities on new measures against the coronavirus in nightlife or the hotel and catering industry. She has also ruled out the possibility of reimposing a nightlife curfew, which would require a new state of alarm to be declared. There is a wide range of documents, plans and strategies agreed by all, where we established guidelines to follow, said Darias. There is a common framework for action, depending on the situation in each community, and it will be up to each community to decide at any given time what to do. So the central government again leaving decisions when it comes to COVID-19 to the autonomous communities. And just remind me, are we in 2021 or 2020? Because this is exactly what happened last year, until, as we know, it didn't work, and the central government had to impose itself on the autonomous communities here in Spain and bring in the state of alarm or state of emergency, which lasted for more than 6 months. So will 2021 be a carbon copy of 2020? I hope not, but the skeptic in me has its doubts. Now, the increase in COVID-19 cases here in Spain has led some people to call it the fifth wave, and the tourism sector is not happy about the way that the current health crisis in Spain is being portrayed in foreign press. As we can see here, the fifth wave is already taking its toll on tourism. It doesn't help to be on the front pages of the world like this. The Spanish tourism sector is holding its breath these days, and no wonder. There is a lot at stake. If the season of the second pandemic summer does not make the grade, one of the pillars on which the still incipient economic recovery is based will fail, affecting companies in the sector that have barely survived until now. It could even be fatal. Several international media, such as the influential Financial Times and Le Monde, on Wednesday focused on Spain, pointing out the high levels of incidence of the Delta variant and warning of the risks of visiting Spain this summer at a time when many foreigners are still deciding where to spend their holidays. So the tourism sector here in Spain not happy with what some international press outlets are saying, for example the Financial Times or Le Monde. So let's have a look at exactly what the Financial Times had to say. And we can see the headline here: Delta variant drives Spain's COVID-19 rate to highest in mainland Europe. The Spanish government has attributed much of the rise to social gatherings, including outdoor drinking sessions where young people share bottles, and to greater mobility at a time when people are travelling within Spain on holiday. The country scrapped almost all of its national COVID restrictions in May, but FT research based on random samples taken by Spanish authorities indicates that the more infectious Delta variant now accounts for some 30% of all cases and is set to become dominant around July 17th. Spain's trajectory is moving it closer to infection levels in the UK, which is ending coronavirus curves on July the 19th, with both countries gambling that the rise in cases among the younger and largely unvaccinated people will not lead to graver problems among the older, more vulnerable groups. So maybe it's just me, but I think the Financial Times gave a fairly fair reflection of what the current health situation's like in Spain. And what does the tourist sector want them to do? Invent some fake news? Now, the French government yesterday, most likely after reading the story in Le Monde, has decided to advise French people against travelling to Spain. As we can see here, the French government advises its citizens not to travel to Spain and Portugal because of the Delta variant. The French government on Thursday advised its citizens not to travel to Spain and Portugal because of the increase in the number of cases of the Delta variant of the virus. Clément Beaune, French Secretary of State for European Affairs, said this on the France 2 television channel. In at least 4 Spanish communities, the Delta variant is already the majority, with an explosive expansion. So yet another country warning its citizens against travelling to Spain this summer. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation in Spain. We can see that the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days is now up to 252. There are still 2,829 people in hospital with COVID around the country, and there are 598 COVID patients in ICU. If we have a look at Spain's main COVID hotspot, Catalonia, we can see that their accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days is 556.9, and hospital admissions are up 104% on previous data. When it comes to the vaccination campaign, we can see that just over 42% of the population are completely vaccinated, and just under 57% have received at least one dose of their COVID-19 vaccine. Now, Spain's controversial new national security law, which the government is preparing, is again making headlines, and according to conservative newspaper La Razón, the national security law will allow Sanchez to seize assets and mobilize all adult Spaniards. The draft of the national security law, to which La Razón has had access, reveals alarming details more typical of dictatorial regimes than of consolidated democracies. In addition to being able to mobilize all adults, the president, Pedro Sanchez, will be able to use all public and private resources for the common good. In other words, Sanchez would be able to expropriate any property he considers key by royal decree without going through Congress or the National Security Council, and furthermore, he could skip the formalities if there are reasons of urgency or opportunity that so require. So the more conservative press here in Spain not happy with the direction this new law is taking, and as we saw, they are worried that the new law is more typical of a dictatorship than a consolidated democracy. Now, the minister here in Spain with the lowest public profile, the Minister for Consumer Affairs, Alberto Garzón, has spoken, and he is calling on Spaniards to eat less meat to protect the planet. The fact that eating red meat in excess was harmful to people's health was already a hotly debated issue a few years ago, since the World Health Organization warned that it could be the cause of some pathologies. Today, however, a new issue has arisen, which the Minister for Consumer Affairs, Alberto Garzón, has raised on his Twitter profile: "We need to eat less meat to protect the planet." The minister has launched a campaign to raise public awareness of the fact that the livestock industry, especially large-scale farms, cause high CO2 emissions, accounting for 14.5% of all CO2 emissions in a year. He insists that it is not a question of stopping having family barbecues or barbecues with friends, but simply not doing them on a regular basis and trying to include other types of products in our diet that are more environmentally friendly. So there we go, the Minister for Consumer Affairs here in Spain telling Spaniards that perhaps it's not a good idea to throw an extra snag on the barbie. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Curtin: "Hi, are there any restrictions travelling between different regions in Spain? For example, travelling from Barcelona to Madrid by rail?" Hi Curtin, thanks for the comment, and no, there are currently no restrictions when it comes to travelling here in Spain, whether it's by bus, by rail, by car or by plane. You can travel around the country freely. There are no restrictions. Autonomous communities are open, and I don't think there's any talk of them closing down again. Even though the accumulated incidence rate of COVID-19 is increasing in the country at the moment, autonomous communities are not talking about closing their borders. There's been some talk about curfews, there's been some talk about wearing masks again outdoors, but nothing about shutting down the borders. So no problems when it comes to travelling freely around Spain by any means of transport. One here from Sean: "I also enjoy your dry wit. It could also be used to ask said Californians, so what kind of job are you looking to get once you get to Spain? While fully understanding that their wonderful world of Spain does not involve seeking a job at all." Yeah, Sean, thanks for the comment. I imagine that a lot of people that are planning to move to Spain from places like California are not thinking about work because maybe they are reaching retirement age and they're looking for a different setting to sit back, relax and enjoy their retirement. At least a lot of the people that get in contact with me seem to be in that age group. And younger people from North America that are looking to come to Spain and perhaps need to work could always fall back on the traditional giddy jobs like teaching English. But you're right, the job market here in Spain is a difficult obstacle to overcome for a lot of people, and people have to be aware that there aren't many jobs in this country, unfortunately. One here from Charlie: "Numbers are up but deaths are low because it's mostly all young people. If you are older by now, you are vaccinated. It's time to allow the occurrence of some type of herd immunity and to stop worrying about it. Just keep up the vaccination project. Restrictions are no longer needed regardless of the numbers." Yeah, Charlie, thanks for the comment, and I imagine that there are a lot of people out there that have a similar opinion to you. Older generations of people here in Spain are now vaccinated, and it only seems to be the young that are catching COVID-19 nowadays. And as we know, some countries, the United Kingdom and Singapore, have decided to follow the line that you mentioned there. And as I said the other day, time will tell if that is a good strategy or if it is not. But as we know, not every country in the world thinks like this, and as we saw earlier, countries even in the European Union are recommending their citizens against travelling to Spain at the moment. So we'll see what happens here in Spain, whether they decide to follow some of the more liberal countries or whether they decide to bring back restrictions. Again, time will tell. One here from Dino: "Are you really a socialist? If so, why didn't you move to Cuba, Venezuela or North Korea?" Yeah, Dino, thanks for the comment, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't move to Cuba or Venezuela because I don't like tropical countries and I'm not a big fan of rum. And when it comes to North Korea, I didn't even think about that country as a place to move to, but I'll look into it. One here from Right Away. Great job as always, mate. I'm in Spain and unable to get back home to Australia. I miss the dry, laconic Australia sense of humour, so thank you for not holding back when it's required. Yeah, Right Away, thanks for the comment, and obviously referring to a reply that I made yesterday to another comment from a troll that pops up on the channel every now and again. And sorry to see that you were having trouble getting back to Australia. I know it's not easy to get into Australia at the moment. Lots of flights are being cancelled, unfortunately. More restrictions are being put in place on how many people can return to Australia, and a lot of the states there don't want people coming in. I heard a story this morning about a tennis reporter who left Australia to cover the French Open and then Wimbledon, and now he cannot get back into the country as his flights have been cancelled. And let's just say that he is very, very peeved about that, and he had some very strong words for various state premiers this morning. So given the way that COVID-19 is a problem in many countries still, maybe it's time for Australia to rethink its policy. One here from Lane. Stu, don't give those morons airtime. You're wasting your time answering their comments. They are not worth a single breath. Yeah, Lane, thanks for the comment. I normally don't address comments from trolls or morons, as you call them there, but every now and again I like to throw one in. And I highlighted one yesterday in particular because I'm sick and tired of people not understanding exactly what I'm trying to say. But some people have an agenda and they waste their time and mine with silly comments. And it's amazing to see when you dig a little bit deeper into these people's profiles that they all have the same opinion about the same things. And they come onto channels like this to try to convince people that they have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And finally, one here from Trisha. Great reply to the Marxist comment. Absolutely right, Reed Johnson. Time will tell. You had me chuckling tonight. Yeah, Trisha, thanks for the comment, and good to see that I was able to give you a bit of a laugh. Not everybody picks up on my sense of humour, but good to see that you are one of the people that do. In fact, I might have to set up some type of notification system to warn people that I'm being ironic. For example, I'm a Marxist. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.